All right, let's bring you this now. It's the story we've been running all morning, that 4.8 magnitude earthquake that rocked parts of Gauteng in the early hours of this morning. For some, this is a stark reminder to assess insurance coverage and ensure preparedness for future earthquakes. So to unpack this, I'm now joined by Underwriting Manager, CEO and insurance expert, Christelle Colman. Thank you so much, Christelle, for your time, and good afternoon to you. And this conversation actually reminds me of a tweet that I read, earlier on. Someone tweeting and sending that message to us eNCA saying that it was a wake-up call for them experiencing this earthquake, because they just realized they didn't have even emergency exit, or they weren't prepared for in cases of emergencies like this. But I suppose insurance coverage as well coming into the fore, because we know there's also been damage that was recorded by Gauteng residents. Let's talk about the extent of damage that an earthquake like this could actually cause.
Wow, that is a big question, because we don't actually know the impact of it yet. But I think it's really important to remember that South Africa is, to some extent, we've had some serious earthquakes over the years. So we see these earthquakes in Gauteng, which is often mining related, and there's this additional risk that's coming out as a result of the illegal mining activity. So it's something that we need to keep in mind. And in the Western Cape, we have seen serious earthquakes over the years. So the 69 earthquake in Tulbagh, that's the one that we remember. But in the 1800s, there was an earthquake of a magnitude of 6.5 that caused extensive damage. I have to share this with you because it's so interesting. The Milnerton race course is actually built in the indentation where they believe the epicenter was of the 1809, I think, earthquake. So we're not completely free of this natural activity. So it's really important that you remember that earthquake is a risk. But the biggest thing that you have to remember is your personal safety. And we don't know what to do in earthquakes. If you look at the response we saw on social media last night, people were out having a party. And I think those basic steps of keeping safe during an earthquake: look after yourself and your immediate family first. The basic things is, if you're in a car, stop, pull up your handbrake, don't move. If you're outside, don't run inside. And if you're inside, don't run outside. So read up a little bit now that we're seeing an increasing of frequency of these events, that you understand what you're supposed to do to stay safe before we talk about insurance.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you there. One tweet actually sending us that message, Christelle, saying the first thing they did when they experienced the earthquake was to quickly get the kids and get their loved ones out of the house before thinking about any materialistic thing. But let's still stick to insurance and talk about the actual cost to not only the economy, but also to the insurance industry. I mean, when we speak of earthquake, especially in the context that they're becoming more and more common.
Well, you see, this is why I made the differentiation between earthquakes that result from natural disasters and mining activity, because some insurance policies exclude earthquake cover as a result of mining activity. Now, this is a very important point, and why it's a call to action for the viewers today to check with the insurance providers or the insurance companies whether they have cover against these events. In South Africa, as a rule, most policies would cover you automatically against earthquake damage. The risk, I think, is around whether we are adequately insured. There is very well documented underinsurance in South Africa, and these earthquakes affect your homes or your structures, so it's your biggest assets. And when you have a very damaging earthquake, you're looking at a total loss, and you could be severely out of pocket if you didn't insure your home for the correct rebuilding costs. So what we do as South Africans, we confuse market value with rebuilding costs. Two completely separate things, because a house could be worth a hell of a lot more than it will cost to rebuild it. So you could be overinsured, or you could be insuring it for less because you're looking at market value versus replacement cost. So make sure that you get the right valuation done for your building, and that you insured adequately, that if you have a total loss as a result of an earthquake, that you will be able to rebuild that home either on the same premises or in a different address.
Yeah, but also, Christelle, it seems that the reason that most people are giving for either not being insured or being underinsured is that they say the premiums are either too expensive, or the current spate of natural disasters will only then drive premiums up even further.
Well, the second part of your comment is certainly true. I mean, we are seeing an increase of these massive weather events. We're seeing the fallout from the KwaZulu-Natal floods, and the impact many of us have had premium increases on our insurance as a result of those floods. We can't do anything about that. But the reality is, there's an Afrikaans saying, goedkoop koop is duur koop. So if paying little for something gives you a big, bill at the end of the day, underinsuring your home is one of the worst mistakes you can make. Rather take a higher excess then, because if you think about a R1 million home and it should be insured for 2 million, you have a loss. The insurance company says you're only insured for half of your claim because you're only insured for the half of the value. So they only pay out half of the claim. So you end up getting paid 500,000 Rand when you're expecting R1 million. These are significant impacts on your personal wealth creation. So it's really important to get it right. And you can do it in various ways. You can ask your builder. You can have a professional valuation done. A lot of insurance companies now offer valuation services and they recover the money through the premium so that you're adequately insured. And then that average condition that we're talking about gets taken out of the policy. This applies to home insurance as well as commercial building insurance, because the risk, of course, to businesses are, exponentially more because the values of those buildings are so much more. You also need to think about the impact on your business interruption insurance if you can't get to your premises as a result of an earthquake. So make the time to contact your broker or your insurance company and ask them to talk to you about earthquakes and what are the risks that you face and what do you need to do to make sure that you've got adequate coverage. I think the Western Cape is due for an event. Every about 100 years, we've seen quite a significant event. And in that area of the Milnerton Fault, which is close to Koeberg. We don't have to worry about Koeberg because they've done a lot of work to make sure that it's safe. But in that area, we've seen major urbanization and people have forgotten about the earthquake. A generation has passed, so people don't remember. So talk to your family about safety during an earthquake and make sure that you've got the correct insurance coverage in place, that if there's a big event, you at least don't have the financial loss as a result of that earthquake.
Yeah, I agree in terms of having that conversation with your insurers, just to alleviate some of the fears or doubts that you may have, or just, either being ill-informed or not so clued up about the importance of insuring yourself and remaining safe during natural disasters. But thank you so much, Christelle, for having this conversation with me. Amy Underwriting Manager, CEO and insurance expert, Christelle Colman, joining us right here on eNCA.